Hey guys, I am working on my video about Lauren and Cameron, but I wanted to stop by and have a quick conversation about two couples. They're the same two couples that I put together in the last time that I recapped because they're kind of so I don't really give them their own videos. And those two couples are Giannina and Damien and Kelly and Kenny. So let's do Kelly and Kenny really quick because I'm not even gonna go pull screen caps, okay? Think about the blandest white girl and the most boringest blonde hair. He looks kind of like Dennis the Menace grew up. Kenny, okay? I want you to think about those two people and that's what the pictures would be. There we go. So let's have a quick conversation about them. Girl, what is my hair doing? It is just a mess. I have like a messy bun up and I need to like brush my hair and all that kind of other stuff, but I just don't feel like it. So here you go. You got me doing this tonight. So here we go. I'm not going to clip their pictures because like I said, we don't need them. We know what they look like. Kelly and Kenny. So some surprising things that happen with Kelly and Kenny and some not so surprising, right? So first of all, I do want to flash back to the first part, the first couple, the one through five. There's this conversation happening between the guys when they all kind of start hanging out together and they're talking about like their hot sex that they're having with their girls. And they kind of like indicate to like Kenny, like, hey, have y'all? And Kenny is like a child. Like, he's like a teenage boy. And just instead of saying, no, we are taking it slow or whatever, he kind of is like, ha ha, we had a good time. And I feel like Kenny gave us the impression that they banged, but apparently they haven't. Okay. Just putting that out there because I feel like, what are we, like 13, you're gonna pretend and maybe make an innuendo and because you don't want to like let your friends down or make them, I don't know, it just seemed weird to me and I wanted to mention it because I was surprised. There's a couple of surprising things with this couple. The next thing is they're still not banging. Well, of course not. It's going to be hard because as everybody else is going to move into the condos, Kelly's going out of town. She has work. Now, we have a couple of scenes of them and she's talking about like, oh, like, oh, I'm a little bit nervous, social media, blah, blah, blah. And in her one-on-one, she's like, there's all these beautiful pictures of women, I mean, and guys, but women. Well, then back in the room, he says, I already told you, you can have all my passwords, you have my phone, you have the right to go through everything. She's like, oh, okay. There's also a conversation about like the fact that they're going to put their phones down at a certain time, like 2 hours before bed. And there's all this like very business-like transactions. They're going at it from a very business-like angle. And it seems absolutely passionless. Now, remember that I mentioned that like anytime there's a quietness or like a awkwardness to the conversation, Kelly just kisses him. She just lays one on him, right? And that seemed really awkward and uncomfortable. So it didn't seem very natural, right? Well, we're about to get a little bit more information on that. So Kelly goes away on business, which means that Kenny is moving in on his own. There's a couple of FaceTime calls. It's very, like, it feels like these two have been married long enough that they've established, like, rules about social media and time for phone and all of the other boring stuff that happens. And I think it's great to have communication. I don't know how to explain it. It's like they're overdoing all of like the boring stuff and they're not doing any of the fun stuff. And you know why they're not doing any of the fun stuff? Because we find out later that Kelly's worried. She's had trouble climaxing in the past. Something tells me that after this conversation, Kenny's gonna have trouble as well. Just saying. So she's had trouble climaxing, and Kenny's not really what she's into. She's just not. She's not that into Kenny. This is shocking to me. Shocking. Because physically, I'm going with they're a good match. Like, I don't know. I don't know. She says that she's usually like into like guys that aren't the greatest and like she goes for the looks. And I am not trying to be ugly here, guys, but I feel like Kelly and Kenny are very well matched physically. I feel like he looks like the kind of guy that would like her, and she looks like the kind of girl that would like him. And so I don't see a physical mismatch. And when I say a physical mismatch, I'm gonna refer you over to like Giannina and Damien. That to me is a physical mismatch. I could see Giannina saying, that's not usually the guy I go for. But like Kelly physically rejecting Kenny makes me confused. My world seems upset and discombobulated. And then having her, so here's the thing. You have this guy who you're already making things very clinical with, and then you're going to talk to him about your issues with climaxing before you even give the dude a chance, before you even relax into like getting to know him and being physically intimate. That's crazy pants. It's just insane to me. And I think that, and then Kenny pulls this whole like, I've just never talked like that with a girl, and to hear a girl talk about like climax, and okay, I'm sorry, we're all adults. So one of the things that I'm a giant advocate is open communication, right? Like, we are all sexual creatures and we're all adults and we have every right to express what we want and get what we need and everything else. And one of the things is going to be knowing yourself and knowing your body and having those kind of awkward conversations, and they can be awkward, especially if there's no background for them and no like relationship to support them. But those conversations about what makes you feel good and what you like and what you would like more of and what you might want less of and stuff like that, right? So the idea that this grown-ass man is sitting here going like, I've never had these conversations is shocking. It's shocking. Maybe I misheard him or whatever, but he just seemed so weirded out. Now, I will say, I get it. Like I said, they haven't even had sex yet, so for her to be complaining about not feeling like she's going to be able to get there with them seems a little weird. I get that she's saying that's things she's had problems with in the past, but like, that's not really fair, really. Like, you know what I mean? Like, exes cheated on you. Does that mean he's gonna cheat? Like, you've got to let this relationship be this relationship, and you also have to give him a fair shot if you're actually trying to make it work. If you're not actually trying to make it work, then I guess you don't actually have to do any of this, and then I don't know why you would have such a weird-ass, awkward conversation on camera. Just saying. Ultimately, all I'm focusing on is I could not believe that she was physically rejecting him. Am I crazy? Do I sound like a bitch? I kind of feel like a bitch saying it, but it's just, it is. It is what it is, right? It is what it is. Shocked, I tell you. The next couple, Giannina and Damien, again, not getting their own video because I don't even know, right? So Giannina and Damien. Okay, so Giannina, let's just talk about her for a second. She kind of mystifies me. I think I talked to you guys about, I'm thinking, so some of it is her affect. Like when she speaks, particularly there's an argument that happens where she's on one side of the wall and he's in the bedroom. And she says like, have you ever noticed? I'm always coming on to you. You never initiate. It's like these like little short bursts of words. It's a weird affect. It feels almost fake. And so I know that with reality TV, sometimes they make them reshoot scenes. Like, we missed that fight, now you have to have the fight again. And I don't know if that's what we're picking up on. Like, those are the moments where, like, there's, like, a disconnect or whatever, but it just seems so forced. Every time, I swear, every time something happens and Giannina pauses, I'm waiting for her to be like, no, bro, fuck you, I'm not in this. So it's such a strange thing when she's like openly and accepting of him and like, I love him. It just doesn't compute in my head. Both of these couples do not compute in my head for different reasons. So one of the things that I want to talk about with Giannina and Damien is that Giannina is definitely loud. She yells and he doesn't yell. She's from a louder family and he's not loud, right? So I feel like often he's putting it on her because she is communicating in a loud, aggressive way. But he's a douche, right? He's low-key an asshole. Like, taking it back to the first couple, when they had that argument where he confessed that he left his job, he said something about, like, you know, oh, I wish we could just stay here because of all the drama. Like, nobody wants to deal with drama. And she's like, what drama? And he's like, oh, nothing, you know what I mean, just drama. And she's like, no, like, what do you mean drama? And he kind of like gaslit her and like twisted it to like nothing. It was just a choice of words. She's like, yeah, but you chose that word on purpose. Drama isn't just nothing. He didn't say like, oh, I wish you could stay here because you know all the like bullshit you gotta get done, like the bills you gotta pay and like the shit you have to handle in real life. He said drama, which is definitely a negative context word, and so she is reacting to it and trying to get him to answer her, and he's basically like trying to act like he wasn't saying anything. Well, clearly she was right because he then was like, well, I kind of left my job and I don't know if I have work anymore. You know what I mean? So she was picking up on something and he was trying to make it like she wasn't. And this whole fight started that he then blamed on her. And she, I believe, apologized for. So we're in this new world where the fight about who comes on to who, and she says she lost her butterflies. It's a very weird, strange fight. And he's definitely in a strange mood, and at some point they go to dinner and he's like, I can't be afraid to upset you, I can't, you know, you're gonna yell. And she's like, okay, I won't yell. And personally, in some of these moments when she's not yelling, I feel her so hard, it's ridiculous, because I'm definitely a louder person who gets very passionate and like very like, oh, right. And there are times when my wife will be like, you don't have to be this hopped up. And so I have to like dial it back, but it's hard and I don't necessarily want to because I'm more comfortable communicating the way I do. So when I do dial it back, I'm like, do you get it? Do you get it? And I'm not saying it loud and I'm not saying it ugly, but I am actually being ugly and I am kind of I'm being actually more bitchy trying to be quiet than I would be if I was still being loud. Just saying. I feel like Giannina kind of lives in that space, just lives in that space with Damien. So she's definitely like, she's like, you know, okay, I won't yell. What else? He's like, well, if I don't have to be afraid to tell you stuff, then I'll just start rattling it off. And he just starts like banging out his pet peeves with her and the things he doesn't like. And he's kind of an asshole. Like, I'm telling you, I feel like just because you're not yelling doesn't mean you're not an asshole. And just because you're not exploding doesn't mean you're not pushing buttons and being a complete dick. And that's kind of where I feel like Damien comes from a lot. And I also don't get, like, I feel like he should be damn happy to be with her. And I don't even mean just because she's, in my opinion, physically out of his league, but I mean, she just is so supposedly the best sex he's ever had, and she's really a beautiful girl for him, and she's appearing to be passionate about trying to make this relationship work. And he seems like, I don't know if it's like he can't believe it or he doesn't believe it, but he seems like he could care less. Like he is shitting all over like Giannina to me. And I think that a lot of her, and we're all responsible for our own reactions to things, but I think a lot of her reactions are truly reactions to his actions, even though his actions are kind of under the radar because they're not done as loud or as overtly, right? So this is the first couple that we actually get all the way down to the aisle with. And right before that, because she told him she was missing the butterflies and all of that kind of stuff, we kind of get this like, oh, he lays out rose petals and like gifts and has her like get dressed and takes her out, brings her back into the apartment. There's a chef there, and at the end he's like, it's not over, and he like takes her into the bedroom, right? And basically this is him initiating sex because during that weird ass argument in the two different rooms, she was like, you never initiate it, did you ever notice that? And he's like, well, I don't initiate it because I never know where you're at, Giannina, I never know. And she's like, oh, I don't want to always be the one. So he's basically kind of like living up to that. However, I don't know. So I didn't do this with Kenny and Kelly, but I will. But with Giannina and Damien, to just kind of summarize, I don't really know if, first of all, I don't think they'll make it. Even if they got married, I don't think they'd stay married. And I think it's going to be him pulling the plug, which is mind-blowing to me, quite honestly. It's mind-blowing. There you go. But yeah, so I'm not putting my money on these two getting married. I think that it's going to be an explosion. And I think Giannina might be the bride that we see falling down in the previews, if you watch the previews for the like whole season. Anyway, with Kelly and Kenny, let's go back to that. I'll tell you real quick what my ideas and thoughts are. I think that they might, I don't know. I was gonna say I think they might get married, but with her telling him like I can't climax and I'm not having sex with you, I'm not sure. I feel like that might be a bit of a train wreck, and I think that Kenny is starting to see that it's a train wreck. Like even though it's almost like a slow car accident. Like nobody's speeding, nobody's doing anything crazy. It's just a slow car accident. I don't know because, and I'm hoping he can see it because if they do get married, they're not lasting. Like you can't go in to the situation already having no passion, no connection, and all the fucking rules in the world and expect that shit to be any kind of fun. And on top of that, she's not attracted to him. She finally said that out loud. She's not attracted to him. So if they got married, I don't think it would last, but I don't know that they're going to get married. I don't know. Part of me thinks that these two people think very clinically, like where I said, or where y'all haven't seen that video yet because I'm still working on it, but where I was talking about Cameron, I said Cameron seems to have a very analytical mind, but also an emotional side. These two just seem very business about it. Like it just seems like a business transaction. What I can't figure out though is like with Giannina, I can see her wanting to be on TV because like she's young and she's got like I think an Instagram presence and stuff. So she's like kind of like, I don't understand why Kelly or Kenny would do this because they don't seem into it. They don't seem into each other. I just cannot, it does not compute. It does not compute. Just saying. So now that we wrapped up those two couples, I did want to say something really quick. And this is at the end of the video, and so probably a lot of people won't see it, but I want to say this anyway. So I want to go back to Carlton really quick because I have gotten a couple of different comments that I have either deleted or had YouTube hold back because of like the language and stuff used in them. And one of the reoccurring themes for this is that so apparently Carlton was on The Real Housewives. In underneath the video, the original Carlton and Diamond video, somebody posted a link. And Carlton is on that video and he is having a fight with Kenya Moore on Real Housewives of Atlanta. So that's the context. And in it, he is extremely flamboyant and very effeminate. And so a lot of people are using who he has been and calling and saying he's gay and that he's not bi, he's gay. Some people have equated his behavior with the behavior of a gay man. Other people have said, look how he's acting. He's clearly acting like a gay man. I did want to mention, because just like I wanted to have the whole conversation to defend Diamond, I am not about to defend his actions at all. I want to say something about queer people in general and use this as an example, and that is this. First of all, even if Carlton had openly identified as gay, it is absolutely within the normal evolution of people while they're trying to discover their sexuality, going through several different labels. Heterosexual people might not understand this because from the very beginning, they are heterosexual. It is very possible that at some point when Carlton realized he wasn't heterosexual, he thought he was gay. And then through growing and maturing, realized that he actually can connect with females and that he is bisexual. It's also very possible that a bisexual person could realize that even though they thought that they could fall in love with a male or a female, they, in the end, are more attracted to one sex over the other. So that is a normal thing for queer people to kind of go through an evolution of figuring themselves out. When you don't fit the normal mold, you have to kind of find your own path. And we don't live in a society that allows people to really have that conversation or interact in a way. Like if you're a straight child, you have plenty of people to ask questions about, but being a queer child, there's not really like a sex education for you. There's not really like any kind of resources. I mean, the internet, but the internet can be very confusing. It can make things worse, not better. So I did want to mention that. I do also you can never equate the actions of one person with an entire group. It's not fair, and it's how fucked up things get said. So to say, look at him, he's acting like a gay man, or look how like ridiculous he was, just like a gay man, or anything like that, or anything along those lines, or using the F word instead of gay man, is it's hateful, it's derogatory, and it's just plain wrong. So I will always engage with anybody. I enjoy conversation. I think that even the conversations that are uncomfortable, which are the really important ones, and even the conversations which lead to more questions are good conversations. They are needed and necessary. And I will always, if a question is asked or a statement is made in a respectful manner, coming from a place of wanting to learn, wanting to educate, or truly wanting to further discussion, I am all about it. But I absolutely will not engage in ignorance, especially willful ignorance. So I just am asking anybody and everybody who watches that video to try to have the same type of open-minded and understanding, and to not take any of his actions and apply them to a group. And I'm asking people who watch these videos to think outside of just their one perspective, and to realize that there's a whole world of people and a whole world of experiences, and that we are constantly being called on as people, especially white people, especially cisgendered people, especially heterosexual people. We're all being called upon to kind of, like, if you are of the norm, if you are of the standard, if you are the default, then it is your responsibility to seek out information and to work towards change and equality and inclusion. So I did want to put that out there. I do think that the situation was terrible, and I don't like what was done with Diamond, and I don't think it was fair, and I think that the producers knew it, and it's the one place where I don't really agree with this entire show. I feel like it is the black eye on the entire show, and the show is great besides that. So I just hate that it happened. And I hate that the producers knew that somehow this was going to happen. I don't think they knew how bad it was going to get, but I do think that they knew that by including a bisexual man, they were going to get some sort of drama. And I just don't want it to be used to fuel any negativity around the queer community. There you go. I hope you're still here for all of that. As always, like and subscribe. It helps. I like to engage in conversation, so anything respectful, I'm even okay with slightly judgy and bitchy, because hey, that's me. But keep it respectful and kind as possible, unless you're talking about Mesca feeding alcohol to her dog. Then we can be bitchy and mean. Just saying. Yeah, comment below. I like to comment back. I enjoy the conversation, and I will see you guys around for Cameron and Lauren, and for Amber and Barnett, who, by the way, is really surprising me. I'm kind of proud of Barnett.